Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another episode of Higurashi. Last time, lots of politics going on. We saw some of the inner workings, how that mysterious drug Rena and Natsumi were taking were basically medicine based off of research info on Hinamizawa syndrome, and how the whole Lowell incident was just some political scheming, which I guess I shouldn't be that surprised. Tokyo's the same group that's literally killing a whole village to turn the tides of power politically. But yeah, this has been a while since I thought about it, so that's why it was so shocking. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Tomoe, we'll see how much Tomoe knows. It is kind of interesting how much like Afachi knows about Tokyo and them and Hinamizawa syndrome. Like how Tomoe's boss and Atusato's boss knows about it, but they like I don't know, didn't crack down on Tokyo after it happened because they're like, oh, Tokyo's researching the Hinamizawa syndrome. Like a couple months later, the whole village goes kablooey, kind of. Like there's no action taken, but then again, maybe it's because this is like the good route. They just didn't know this information in the other fragments because it wasn't the good ending. So yeah, anyways, let's see what Tomoe does now. We are tracking down, what's his name again? I forgot, the traitor guy. I already forgot his name because he's just a traitor, so he's dead to me.
ローウェル事件の亡霊が今回蘇ったってわけね。
Click, click. Tomoe bit her nails as she scanned through the documents Arakawa gave her inside the car. The more she read, the more uncomfortable she felt, and it became harder to keep her anger and frustration in check.
それで、前野さんはどう言ってましたか？
厚生省の動きに探りを入れてるみたいです。
Excuse me.
あと公安はローウェル社とゴグラの大学病院とのつながりに調査員を差し向けると。
See, this is where we get the connection with how Autosata
い
comes
よい
in.
よ本格化か。
Probably.
ああ、もう一つ。無茶はするな、だそうです。
Yeah, well.
信用ないな。
We know Tomoe can get a little crazy in here. After that, Tomoe opened the passenger side door and said, "See you," as she stepped out. Instead of a proper goodbye, Arakawa lightly beeped the horn at her, and then pulled out of the parking space at Kikuchi Station.
さてと。
After stretching wide, Tomoe suddenly gazed up at the Kikuchi Station building. Since it was the dead of night, there were very few windows with the lights still on, but one of the few still lit up was the Joint Investigation Headquarters meeting room. Hanada, that's his name. After Hanada's disappearance, Tomoe confided with the Joint Investigation HQ members about what she knew so far. And even though it was unclear at the time who was leaking information, she apologized for the rudeness of secretly conducting an investigation on her own. Then she deeply bowed her head and asked everyone to lend her their strength once more.
おいおい、姫さん。何改まってるんだよ。そんなに気を使われると、かえって水臭い感じがするぜ。
え？
Surprisingly, though, Dojima, Yamamura, and the other investigators reacted by saying, "So what now?" I mean, like, they could get angry because you're hiding stuff from them, but you were kind of, like, proven right because there was literally, like, a leak, so you can't really blame her for being cautious. Tomoe, even though she was being cautious, the leak still came from her side, but regardless. Tomoe was expecting them to admonish her and that she'd have to dodge questions.
あんたが感じていた妙な引っかかりは俺たちにもあった。ただ、姫さんの言う通り、俺たちが全体で乗り出せば、おそらく裏切り者が誰かを突き止めるには無駄な時間がかかっただろう。もっとも、その裏切り者を あんた自身が気づかずに抱え込んじまってたってのが笑える話だけどな。
Yep.
面目ないです。
It is pretty funny.
いやいや、それだけ今回の山が一筋縄ではいかないって証拠さ。俺たちも今まで以上に腰据えていかないとやばいだろう。なあみんな。おーし！
All the investigators barked an answer to Dojima's question in unison. Rather than losing morale, they all looked vibrantly energetic, dependable, and kind. Tomoe gazed at them in awe and savored the joy of being able to fight alongside them.
みんな頑張ってくれている。私もそれに応えないと。
After muttering that to herself, Tomoe took a breath to raise her spirits, and then headed down to the entrance hall toward the office of the 1st Division. Then she stopped at the break room along the way to buy a can of unsweetened coffee, but that moment... what's happening? She could faintly hear a phone ringing, and the sound grew louder as she approached the 1st Investigation Division room. Someone was calling the 1st Division.
誰もいないの？まったく。
Tomoe let out a sigh, then rushed to the nearby phone. She thought about hanging up on them, but fortunately the voice coming in through the receiver was one of the night shift operators.
もしもし、みないさんに外線からお電話です。まだ残っておられますか？
Who's calling?
はい。見ないは私ですが、どちら様から？
ああ、すみません。気づかなくて。塚田様だそうです。
Who the heck is Tsukada?
ご存知ですか？
え？
Who that? She lost her voice. Because there was only one person she knew with the last name Tsukada. But...
おつなぎしますか？
is it the trader? Is it Hanada? I forgot his last name.
それとも。
あ、いえ。つないでください。
Then the voice on the other end of the receiver switched from female to male, and she could hear the man say, "Hello." That voice was unmistakable.
もしもし。
あ、見ないか。すまん。どこにかけていいかわかんなくて、代表にかけちまったよ。
Is this her ex-boyfriend?
塚田。
Yeah, it is. I did say this guy was kind of sketchy. I also thought this guy might be the person who tried to bomb Tomoe's car, like in that a while ago, because I'm pretty sure she pointed out what her car was, and he was like the most sus guy. Huh. Hearing his voice was nostalgic. Even though she had gone years without seeing him and only recently reunited with him, Tsukada's warm tone and timbre of his voice were so distinct she could immediately identify him. However, right now, his voice felt somehow far away. Her field of view started to narrow, and she could hear a high-pitched ringing inside her head.
あ、いやいや、突然すまんな。
Do not meet this guy.
電話番号、まどかちゃんから教えてもらったんだ。
Confirm it with Madoka, but it's probably true.
未来の勤め先って柿内署だったんだな。
ええ。まあ。
That was a lie. Madoka didn't particularly care for Tsukada, so she never would have told him where to call. That is true. I kind of forgot. Though I thought it would be true just because he wouldn't be that careless, because he probably knew Tomoe would double check, no? And besides, they had little to nothing in common, didn't they?
どうしました？結構遅い時間ですけど、何かご用で？
うん。前から誘っていたけどさ、今週どこかで食事でもしないか？
食事？
ああ、ちょっと話したいことがあってさ、どうかな？
そうか。
Tomoe recalled where Tsukada was currently working and quietly thought over what it might mean. There was indeed something they had in common, and if this phone call wasn't a mere coincidence, then...
いいですね。
Ooh, she's taking it. No, be careful. He might try to kill you.
場所はどちらがいいですか?
Dun dun dun. Yeah, I think I kind of forgot about it, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I sussed him out for like putting the bomb in her car. Cause it's been so long, but I do remember her like pointing out like the car she was driving to the die. But I'd have to check back. Just look at this die. Can you really trust someone with closed eyes? In anime, makes him look like a fox. He does have a nice suit though, so give him some respect. Smiling and laughing, Tomoe playfully winked at him. After seeing that, Tsukada simply shrugged and let out a sigh.
あのレストランって予約がなかなか取れない人気店なんだぜ。なのにメニュー見るなり大盛りできますかって聞くか普通。しかもコースなのに追加オーダーバシバシ頼みやがって。たく。
Classic Tomoe。
あれだけ頼めば先輩も割り勘にしろって言い出しやすいと思ったんですよ。なんなら今からでも私の分は出しましょうか。
バカ言え。誘っておいてそんな恥ずかしいこと絶対に言えるかっての。
Tsukada crossed his arms as he said that and snorted while puffing out his chest. Then he suddenly remembered something and thought it was amusing, so he covered his mouth with his hand to hide his laughter.
どうしました?
いや、そういや部活帰りとか生徒会仕事が終わった後とかに未来にはよくこうやっておごらされたなってさ。もっとも当時はたこ焼き、イカ焼き、お好み焼き、焼きそば。
I don't know what. Sorry, I gotta Google what ikayaki is. I know what the other ones are. Ikayaki. What is it? It's a popular fast food in much terms, refers to simple grilled squid topped with soy sauce. Okay. Squid on a stick. Interesting.
粉物ばっかりだったけどな。
As all food should be.
あの当時は100円あれば結構お腹いっぱい食べられましたからね。今の学生の子たちはどちらかというとハンバーガーとかが主流みたいですよ。
Which my dad hates in Japan. He always complains to me about, oh, the hamburgers in Japan are so bad. That's why he always like gets a bunch of hamburgers whenever he comes back to Canada. I'll be honest, in Japan, I've only tried Moss Burger, popular chain. It was alright. It's definitely not as good as Canada, but it's I mean, I prefer more than like, I don't know, Wendy's. Not Wendy's, Burger King. The burger, it was like a softer texture, but it was still pretty good. Anyways, I'll take the W as a Canadian.
当時じゃ考えられなかった。おかげでいろいろ苦労させられたぜ。
ですね。
Then she remembered. It was back in high school when they traveled to some far-off town for the inter-high athletic meets. Tomoe was feeling hungry in the middle of the night and snuck off to the dormitory kitchen to swipe some food, only to find Tsukada there for the exact same reason, munching on a cup of noodles.
結局ご飯もパンも全然なくて、がっかりして戻ろうとした私に先輩がそのラーメンをくれたんですよね。食べかけの。
嫌な言い方するなよ。あれは俺が先生たちの監視網を突破して宿舎を抜け出した末に閉店した乾物屋に頭下げて手に入れた苦労の戦利品だったんだぞ。それを半分、いや二口しか食ってないのにお前に譲ったんだ。土下座で感謝されても罰は当たらなかったと思うけどな。
Jesus. Still could have been considered an indirect kiss. Tomoe remembered how she realized that after eating and suddenly started feeling heated. I don't know, man. I feel like as a kid, I was never embarrassed about an indirect kiss. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's more of a thing in Japan. But I don't know. I feel like in here at school, I'm like, yo, pass me the water, and I wouldn't even waterfall sometimes. I just dope that shit. Anyways, and on the way home from the tournament, the athletic advisor gave everyone ramen as a way of celebrating, but Tsukada came over to her and said, "You owe me," then robbed her of 3 servings. Of ramen? 3 whole bowls? The other chat members who saw that began spreading rumors that Minai and Tsukada are dating, which made things difficult for a while.
先輩のファンクラブには随分恨まれましたよ。何度否定しても全然信用してくれないんだもの。ちゃんと見ていればそうじゃないって分かっただろうにな。
まあ、俺はあんまり否定しなかったからな。
Still trying to Riz, but it's evil Riz, don't trust him.
え？
始まりはなし崩しでも、そういう関係になってもいいかなって思ってた。嫌いじゃなかったしさ、未来のこと。
Feeling her cheeks start to heat up, Tomoe quickly turned to look away. Tomoe too was half lying when she said she denied it at the time. She really was embarrassed and didn't fully understand Tsukada's feelings, so she kept her words rather vague.
もしもあの時。
Well, who knows? Maybe he wouldn't be evil, or you wouldn't be a cop, but... If Tsukada had confessed how he felt, or if she had a little more courage and a positive attitude, what would they be like now? Tomoe thought about it for a moment, but immediately chased the thought away. That was just the imagination of a dreaming girl. Nowadays they had far less in common. But encouraging her first love after such a long time did make her feel nostalgic for her time in school. It's allergy season, forgive me. I skipped my Claritin for today, and it's already nighttime, so there's no point right now. With that in mind, Tomoe couldn't help but dreaming up those childish delusions.
昔はよくこうして一緒に帰りましたね。
ああ。の割に、何度デートに誘っても全然乗ってこねえんだもの。他に好きなやつでもいるのかって何度も。
あの時は部活に夢中でしたから。大会があるたびに自己ベスト更新するのが楽しくて、他に遊びたいと思ったことがなかったんですよ。
That was also just an excuse. In reality, she wasn't sure how to act if she met Tsukada anywhere outside of usual club activities. She lacked the courage to step forward and change things. Even if the end result wasn't what she wanted, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But she was very timid at the time. Realizing how pathetic it sounded, Tomoe bitterly smiled to herself.
でも、とにかくあの時の私は陸上を選んだ。それでいい。
And because of those past experiences, she had now understood the value of moving forward, so she was better able to provide counseling for people like Natsumi. The only regret it would be sad, but reflecting on past failures can avoid problems in the present, and build a solid foundation for your future. Maybe Tomoe was just taking a defiant attitude, but she wanted to believe that was the truth.
それもそうか。あの頃の未来は走り高跳びに命を懸けていたからな。知ってたか？最後の大会の時は大学陸上部の監督が何人も見に来ていたんだぜ。
She could have been a track star.
それなら友達が後で教えてくれました。
But who knows what would have happened to the world if she didn't become a cop? Natsumi might have never not been crazy.
顧問の先生にも言われましたよ。推薦の話がいっぱいあるって。でも私は 自分の記録を更新することだけが楽しくて、それで大学に行くなんてあんまり考えたことありませんでした。
In fact, after her parents' deaths and Midota's sudden illness changed the course of her life, Tomoe refused to accept any of the recommendation-based scholarships she received so casually that she even worried the guidance counselor, Tsukada, and the others. Even though track was the one thing she was passionate about, she didn't feel any regrets.
陸上で生計を立てるつもりでもなかったのに、なんであんなに必死だったんだろう。
Thinking about it now, it was strange. Looking back on her time as a student, she paid little thought to becoming an adult. Her dreams of the future, like becoming a stewardess, were just something she longed for.
だから学生時代は楽しかったというより楽だったかな。
She wasn't thinking about the future or anyone other than herself. She just devoted all her time and her thoughts toward enhancing the present. She had nothing to be responsible for, so she became absorbed in the activity she loved and paid the minimum amount of focus to everything else. It was only after she became a member of society that she realized that was a luxury she could only afford in her student days. That was when she learned what it meant to become an adult. With that in mind, she wondered if she should have made more of an effort towards her future outside the club activities, and felt like talking about her past self.
その点、塚田先輩は真面目でしたよね。政治家になるって大きな目標を持って、そのためにはいい大学に行って勉強と同時に人脈を築いていくんだって。
そんなこと言ってたっけ？
言っていましたよ。私覚えています。そして大臣、果ては首相になって大きな権力を持っていろんな人を幸せにするのが夢だって。
夢か。
He opened his eyes.
それを信じてた頃もあったな。
But when he entered politics, he saw the hellscape it was. And it twisted him. Tsukada continued walking and gazed up at the starry sky as he muttered that. She couldn't help but think that side of his face looked a little lonely in the darkness of the night.
うまくいっていないんですか？今の秘書の仕事。
いや、順調だよ。千葉先生は来たるべき総選挙に向けて気力充実。選挙事務所も準備万端。長年支持してきてくれた人も多く、実績もあって盤石の構えだ。次もまた大臣か、うまく進めば副総理クラスだな。
すごいですね。となると次の選挙は塚田先生の出番ですか？
俺？まだまだだよ。代議士に名乗り出ようにも上はいっぱいで、下はわずかに残った空席待ちだ。しかもお偉い方が居残れば居残るほどその数は年々減る一方。俺の出番はいつになったら回ってくるのやら。
先輩。
議員先生と一度でも呼ばれたらなかなか自分からはやめられないものらしい。生徒会のように毎年の代替わりってわけにはいかないのさ。
Even though Tomoe half meant that as a joke, Tsukada's unexpected display of emotion made Tomoe stop playing around. The Asuma Tsukada she knew was confident and flirtatious, not someone to be frustrated by hardship. Was he hitting such a huge wall here to make him adopt such a negative view?
だけど、そういう古狸どもをバッサバッサ切っていくって言ってませんでしたか？先輩の好きだった鉄血宰相のように。
おいおい、そりゃビスマルクの方だろ。プロイセンの。
Russia lore. I don't know much about Russia.
俺が好きなのは
覚えていますよ。絶対王政を打倒して議会政治の基礎を作ったイギリスの政治家ですよね。
Who dat? Tomoe intentionally dotted Ron to soften the mood and smiled. Oliver Cromwell, a politician, led the Puritans to fight against the tyranny of their king and significantly contributed to strengthening the power of the Parliament. At the time, it was insane and reckless to consider challenging an opponent who was regarded as an incarnation of God. People like Tomoe, looking back on it hundreds of years later, couldn't possibly understand. But he was able to achieve it, with the exceptional power and cooperation of many of his supporters. It was one of the most groundbreaking events in the terms of civil revolutions. In fact, the later American Revolutionary War and the French Revolution wouldn't have happened without it. And when Tsukada was a student, that was the historical figure he looked up to. After all, any time the topic of politics came up, he began passionately discussing it, although Tomoe was bewildered and only half listened.
でも、そんな剛腕の人でも、最後は独裁者になって、議会そのものをなくしてしまった。そして、自分の息子が同様の支配体制を築くことができるよう、世襲制を固めた。そう考えると、正しい政治って何なんだろうって感じます。
そうだな。未来はむしろ彼のやったことは革命じゃなく簒奪、クーデターだって言ってたしな。
彼の功績すべてを否定するわけじゃないんです。だけど血が流れない革命が本当にあるのだとしたら、それが一番理想的なんだと思います。
確かにな。だが民主政治ってものが定着していない状況では、それもやむを得ない一つの選択肢だった。結局自分から精力的に考えて動くことのできる人間なんてそんなにいない。できれば誰かに任せたいし、責任を負わせて従うだけってのは楽だからな。
What the fuck is gumption? Is that a real word? That does not sound real. Gumption. Shrewd or definitions of gumption: fortitude and determination, backbone, grit. Let's just go to Merriam-Webster. Enterprise, initiative, common sense, horse sense. Interesting. Who the heck does gumption? Put back your thesaurus.
自分がその立場に近づいて改めて痛感するよ。
ですね。
Tomoe let out a bitter sigh as she agreed with him. Even as a member of the police force, she always felt frustrated by obstructions. Even when she's convinced she's in the right, it still takes a lot of effort to earn the cooperation of superiors. And even when they do move, their support and expectations become shackles and can even make you lose opportunity to get what you want. That trade-off was Tomoe's personal dilemma, and it would eternally serve as an obstacle in future activities. Moreover, there's a significant amount of delay before you can even become a politician, and even if you're lucky enough to be elected to the position, there are rival factions, disputes with opposition parties, and dealings with bureaucrats awaiting you there. For a while, the two of them remained silent while walking toward the parking lot where Tsukada's car was parked. Somehow they entered a topic neither wanted to broach, so they both remained silent. But while they were talking, Tomoe actually noticed something strange. She thought back to the start of the meal. The conversation topics ranged from reminiscing about the track club and student council to the contents of Tsukada's work as a secretary for a congressman, but never anything about Tomoe's profession. She didn't want to boast about her work as a police officer, but she intended to answer any question when asked, within the scope she was allowed. And yet, Tsukada didn't say a single thing about it, even as a joke, which further heightened her suspicions about the reason he invited her out to eat.
どうするか。
I still think he's saucy. When they left the restaurant, Tsukada offered to give her a drive, but when she set aside her past memories and thought it over, she decided she'd rather refrain. She knew from information Arakawa provided that there were some big names in the pharmaceutical world involved in distributing the medicine Natsumi and Reina were taking. Considering that a former welfare minister like Chiba was one of the targets of suspicions in the investigation. Moreover, his secretary Tsukada contacted her at the same time. The timing was just too perfect.
このまま彼の車に同乗したら、どこに連れて行かれることか。
Yeah, smart move, honestly. She certainly did want to trust Tsukada, but looking back, the naivety was the reason she was led astray by Hanada's betrayal. She had to especially be careful here, and thinking that, she thought it would be best to decline, but that moment...
見ない。
はい。
ローウェル社のことを
Oh,
どこまで調べた？
he's going right into it, huh? Not the sad music. I don't know if it's the time to play this song. Tomoe gasped and quickly turned to Tsukada, then stopped in place. He walked another 3 steps to stay outside her line of sight, then stopped with his back so turned toward her.
塚田先輩。
俺は運命って言葉が嫌いだ。自分の努力とか才能とかに頼らず、チャンスは誰かの意志で用意されるものって考え方は、ただの怠惰か意志の弱さからの言い訳だと思ってきた。
Well, this guy would love Tateno. That's the Tateno belief system that many others share, but, you know, Tateno.
だけど、今は少しだけ考えを改めたい気になっている。こういう形で昔の馴染みが俺の前に立ちふさがることになるなんてな。
And then, Tsukada slowly turned around, gazing at Tomoe with a chilling look on his face that made his earlier demeanor seem like a fabrication. There was no smile, no bloodlust, nothing. A completely transparent, colorless mood was being conveyed, so Tomoe reflectively set herself on guard.
見ない。お前が刑事になっていたことも驚きだったが、まさかローウェルの一件にまで絡んでいるとはな。神様ってのはよほど性悪で、俺たちに茶番を演じさせるのが楽しくて仕方ないのかもしれない。
やはりそうなのですか。あなたは半年前に会った時にはすでにこの一件に関与していたのですか。
そうだな。かれこれ
5 years.
修士課程を修了して千葉先生の選挙事務所で働くようになってから、その中の一つがこれだよ。
塚田さん。
Tomoe tightly clenched her fists, while biting her lips so hard she was practically eating it. She didn't want to believe it. No matter how suspicious he was, even if she heard the facts directly from the man's mouth, she didn't want to believe it until the very end. But this was the reality of it. The man standing before her was no longer her old crush, he was an enemy.
なぜですか。あなたは正義感の強い、高い理想を持った人だとずっと思ってきました。政治家になるのも名誉や財産のためじゃない。昔持病の治療代を払うのに苦労されたご両親を見て、弱者のための医療保険制度を確立する、そのために政治家を目指されたと聞きました。それがなんでこんな変説を。
Tomoe's sorrowful cries echoed through this otherwise quiet town. The dream that she heard from Tsukada when they were heading home from school together were especially pure and noble. She could feel the innocent, youthful idealism behind them. But despite that, because of that, she was fascinated with him. While many people strive for things like that, most give up when they realize reaching it is impossible, but he continued to believe in that as he moved towards it. At least among the people around Tomoe, nobody was as passionate about helping others as Tsukada, but because of that, Tomoe was disheartened to see him moving so far in the opposite direction. Angry, even.
今回問題を引き起こした薬は現在でも国内未認可の薬、しかも欧米では禁止にもなったものです。過去にはその危険性を知らずに服用したたくさんの患者が異常を発症し、大変な事件を起こしました。そして今もなおその副作用で苦しんでいる人が数多くいる。しかもその臨床データはさらに危険な薬の開発へと利用されているのですよ。
さすがによく調べたな。アルファベットプロジェクト、次世代兵器の開発の一環で人間の精神に影響を及ぼす化学物質の
I
研究
thought this shit's getting closed
防
down
衛庁
though.
と厚生省の肝入りで行われている。
At least it wasn't Matsuri Bayashi. That's why Takano was tweeting.
ひなみ沢にはそのサンプルとなる微生物の存在が確認されていてな。それを操作する抑制薬、そして促進薬の開発データは製薬企業にとっては垂涎の代物だ。だからそれを高値でとある外国へと売り渡し、莫大な富を築き上げる。それが俺の先生が見つけ出した金の鉱脈だ。
The Alphabet Project and Hinamizawa? Hearing Tsukada spit that name out, and for the first time relating it to a place so deeply connected to Natsumi and Reina, had Tomoe's eyes open wide in shock. And what was most shocking of all, that a direct aid of Chiba would confirm the allegation of corruption without needing to be questioned.
それを取り仕切っている企業がローウェル社なんですか？
ローウェル社なんて単なる相手国の受け皿企業だよ。開発データを要求したのはもっと上の公的機関だ。
Tokyo.
だから13年前の事件発覚の時も、そして9年前の厚生省官僚逮捕の際にも流出した医療データはついに発見されなかった。千葉先生はローウェル社を通じて危険性が高いままに製造された新薬、あるいは新薬の許認可を得る前の薬剤を国内へと、そして何も知らない患者たちに処方して、その臨
Why
床
is he
実験
saying
のデータを
this?
莫大な報酬と引き換えに売り渡していたのさ。
Bro's just admitting everything. I guess because either A, Tomoe's gonna die, or he thinks she's gonna die, and 2, Tomoe can't do anything about it because they're Tokyo, you know? But man's just saying everything.
それが過去のローウェル事件の真実。
She's gonna drop, oh yeah, we killed your dad
Yeah.
too.
違うな。今もなおその裏取引はルートを変えて継続している。
そんな。
She had already heard the truth behind the Lowell incident from Miyamoto, and that the incident ended without the true mastermind behind the conspiracy ever being caught. But Tomoe couldn't imagine that the practice was still continuing even today.
日本は実験施設ではありません。そして患者たちはモルモットじゃない。それを認め仲介してさらなる悲劇を引き起こす火種を作りながら、あえて見て見ぬふりをしている死の商人たちの存在はあなたが最も嫌う人種だったはず。
Obviously, his morals are compromised, if that wasn't clear enough yet.
なのにどうしてあなたはその連中に加担を？
突き止めるためさ。それと敵討ちだ。
What the heck?
敵
What does that mean?
討ち。
お前には関係のないことさ。
After saying that, Tsukada pulled a cigarette from his inside pocket, lit it, and spit out a puff of smoke. Tobacco weakens your endurance, so he hated his very existence ever since his school days. Nevertheless, the fact that he was so freely willing to smoke demonstrated just how much he's changed, So Tomoe's chest painfully tightened.
なあ、見ない。お前はこの件から早く手を引いた方がいい。どこまで調べても、お前たちだけでは立ち向かえない。
I mean, that's not wrong, to be fair.
この国の合法的な機関では絶対にかなわない相手だ。
You need to literally catch them in the act, aka while the whole Hinamizawa operation's going on. That's the only reason why. And they didn't even catch everyone, I think, by the end of Higurashi, I think. Probably the mid players still managed to escape.
そんな奴らに逆らうなんて。
Maybe.
それこそ無謀だよ。
それがあなたの正義ですか？強い者にはへつらい、弱い者を虐げる。
That'd be a shitty idea of justice.
そんな世の中を一番嫌っていたのはあなたじゃなかったのですか？
Unless you're a fascist, then that's actually their idea of justice.
なら
Basically.
お前はこの後どうするつもりだ？苦労して立ち上げた捜査本部に今回の捜査内容を報告する。そこまではいい。
Really don't care, huh?
だがな、選挙公示前とはいえ、代議士の汚職を追及し逮捕する権限は。
Then who the fuck has the right?
なぜなら警察は公安も含めて政治家には逆らえない立場に置かれているものだからな。
Well, someone has to.
官僚、警察、軍隊。歴史を紐解くまでもなく、国家を保全するそれらの機関が民衆側に立った例はゼロと言っても。
I mean, that's a little bleak, but whatever.
法律も権力者の支配に都合よく構成されて。
In a way, he's right,
真面目な
but
倫理と道徳を持つ
it's
者
not
ほどア
absolute.
ホを見る。民主主義なんて。所詮は強者が弱者を従えるための方便。
To be fair, I feel like a lot of people probably have this opinion, though they're probably also not like on both sides of the spectrum, honestly. Like I feel like Strawn this also like talks about strong socialist values too. Well, this guy's obviously hard in the capitalist vein right now, doing the secret drug tests on people and stuff for profit.
お前たちは
Yeah, it kind of works both on both sides of the spectrum. That's why I like to be like
そんな
middle-ish.
ことはありません。
There's truth in both sides. IMO.
私たちは公僕。この国に住むすべての人の権利と暮らしを守るための存在です。政治家の私兵集団なんかじゃない。
綺麗事を言うな。何も分かっていないくせに。
That violent roar put her at a loss for words. Then Tsukada gazed at Tomoe with a hateful look in his eyes like he was about to pounce on her.
お前だって本当は何度も何度も押さえつけられてへこまされて。言っておくがな、見ない。俺はお前以上に汚い世界をこれまで見てきた。見せられてきたんだ。利己のためなら他人の命など平気で見捨てる連中。嘘を並べ立てることに全く罪悪感を持たない卑怯者ども。そのくせ奴らは国とか天下とかいう言葉を多く面もなく大義名分にして自分のエゴを正当化して開き直る。
Yep, sounds like politicians.
バカバカしい。何が誰々のためだ。あいつらが見ているのは自分の懐だけじゃねえか。
塚田さん。
俺だってどうにかしたい。少しでもいい方向へと変える何かをしたいとずっと思ってきたさ。でもな、この国のお偉い方はずるくて汚くて薄情者ばっかりだ。自分の物欲と名誉欲を満たすことだけしか考えていない。たとえ友人でも家族でも平気で蹴落とす。
It's a cutthroat world.
だったら俺も
The
そ
world
う
of
生きて何
politics.
が悪い。それを批判できるほど お前は公明正大に生きてるって言い切れるのか。
Honestly, Tomoe can probably say that. She's been pretty clean compared to like other people. Like maybe Oishi couldn't say that because he has his vices and a little corrupt here and there, bending the rules. But Tomoe's pretty straight laced.
お前はいいさ。自己満足に生きて正義の皆に陶酔して、たとえ失敗しても仕方がなかった。でも事件は他にもあるからこの次頑張りましょうで通用する。だがな、俺たちの世界は力こそ正義で、そして競争から脱落した者は二度とは這い上がってはこれない。理想を実現するには力が必要だ。そのための手段を選ぶ余裕なんて俺たちにはあるものか。
That man is breaking down.
それがあなたの
He's
結論ですか。
losing it. Contrary to Tsukada's fierce rage, Tomoe's heart was calm and cool, and sad, and lonely. Back when he was in school, he had higher ideals than anyone and spared no effort in order to achieve them. But now he was caught up in this theory of power, exposing his ugly, nasty form. Did she really look up to a man like that? Did a man like that really provide her moral support? Even though he encouraged her and offered her advice so many times, she couldn't imagine hearing these words out of him. She wanted to understand the pain of knowing the difference between reality and ideals. She wanted to understand how painful it is to know you're standing against unreasonable power and authority. But the person who taught her that was the man standing before her.
あれ？
Her anger turned to disappointment. Nevertheless, the moment she stepped forward and faced Tsukada, she felt a strange feeling. That's wrong. This man was not the sort of coward who'd admit defeat in a situation like this. He was the kind of man who hated to show weakness in front of others. But in that case, then why was he doing this?
そうか。
I think he's... Honestly, I thought it was a trap. But, like, I feel like he's trying to warn her and tell her, hey, you're probably gonna die if you do this.
なんだ。そうなんだ。
Or maybe
そういうことか。
it's a cry for help and he wants her to solve it. And she's saying all this, so, to, like, push her forward.
何？
Maybe even subconsciously.
嘘なんでしょう。塚田さん、本心ではそんなこと考えていないんでしょう。
Hype music. After saying that, Tomoe shook off the disgust and disappointment that had been nagging her just a moment ago, clinging, no believing in the little hope she found as she softly gazed at Tsukada. Maybe she would be betrayed. Maybe she just got drunk on her past self and her memories and was being completely off the mark. However, this was Tsukada. When Tomoe heard him say something he'd never say, a single possibility came to mind. Or he might have had some other thought in mind when he approached her.
どういう意味だ？
おかしいですよ。肩書きを得るためなら信念を捨てるなんて。理想を何よりも大事にして、それを実現するための苦労と困難を知っているあなたが。だって、あなたの目標は政治家になることじゃなく、政治家になって何をするかだって言ってたじゃないですか。
見ない。
私はあなたがどれだけ無欲で潔癖な人だったか知っているつもりです。だから本当に政治家に失望したのなら、あなたは政治家ではなく他の道を選んでいるはず
Imagine
で
if
す。
he's like, he was just, I don't know, maybe he's doing his own coup, help Tomoe bring down this guy so he can take the place and actually be like a good politician. That'd be crazy.
理想を叶えるための
chess.
職業が政治家だけであるはずがないんだから。
she remembered. Tsukada had been a soldier of virtue ever since he was in school. A man who strongly believed in his ideals far more than the harshness of reality, and was willing to step forward to make them come true. To imagine that he'd be blinded by self-interest and stray from that path was unthinkable. In fact, it would be more realistic to think he'd give up on politics and pursue medicine or religion. Religion, huh?
確かに最初はあなたを疑いました。そして事実を告げられた時は驚いたし、あなたに絶望しそうになりました。だけどあなたが私に近づいたのは警告じゃないんでしょ？
Yeah.
だってわざわざテレビドラマ見たくそちらの事情を話す理由ないじゃないですか。
As she put thoughts running through her head into words, Tomoe's hunch transformed into conviction. Yes, she knew it. Tsukada was testing her. He determined her real intentions and decided how much to say based on that, even if it meant turning himself into the villain.
やっぱり変わって
It's a lot of assumptions, but I kind of believe it, honestly. Which means he probably wasn't the one who tried to kill her in the car explosion in the other arc. She chuckled at the strangeness of it. The way he sought out thoughts and sense of values in others like this was exactly the same as old
あ
times.
なたは何をしようとしているんですか？そしてどうして私に近づいたのですか？私に疑われること、失望されることを覚悟の上で。塚田さん、あなたにとって私はまだ頼りない後輩のままかもしれない。ですが、私も生きる覚悟と責任というものをこれまでに少しは学んできたつもりです。だから私を信じていただけませんか？
ったく。未来。
Tsukada suddenly let out a huge sigh, then shook his head and turned toward Tomoe. He had a calm, bitter smile on his face as though he'd been freed of a possession, and the tension in the air dissipated like a weight being lifted off their shoulders.
変わらないな。そこまで俺のことを信用してくれたやつは大学にもいなかったよ。
塚田さん。
なんでかな。昔から俺のことをいろいろ悪く言うやつは多かった。だけどお前だけはなぜかいつも味方になってくれてたよな。それに俺が裏で考えてることも結構見抜いちまうんだ。なんでだ？
好きだったから。いえ、それ以上に尊敬していたからだと思います。
Tomoe looked away as she answered, smiling and reminiscing about the past. Feeling isolated in any sort of group environment like school would make anyone anxious. That's why you learn to regulate yourself and make compromises to fit in rather than rocking the boat. But a person like Tsukada, who stood up for himself with strong beliefs and convictions, would seem bizarre and heretical, and in a sense it would make him a target of envy. Plus, Tsukada didn't spend additional effort to get along with people and behave in a friendly manner. But on the other hand, he was very kind and sympathetic toward other people like himself who made an effort.
両親の事件があった後、みんな心配はしてくれたけど、腫れ物に触るような扱いでした。まして雑誌でありもしないことを書かれるようになってからは、仲の良かった友達まで距離を置くようになっていった。でもあなたは違いましたよね。
Even after she quit the team, even after she graduated, Tsukada continued worrying about how Tomoe was doing. Maybe all she did with him was vent her complaints and share idle chit-chat. Still, for someone like her who felt isolated from her classmates, it was the only place she could relieve the tension in her heart.
未来はあんな事件があった後も 妹さんのことを心配して、人前では辛いとか悲しいって顔を見せなかったからな。おまけに、妹さんのために部活を辞めて、進路まで変更して。本気ですげえと思った。だから俺も、対等に付き合うのが礼儀だと考えたんだ。
あなたはもともと妥協が嫌いな人だった。会議でも適当に決まるのを何よりも嫌っていたし、自分の主張をどこまでも貫いて。でも言っていることはいつも信念があって揺るぎなかった。日本人には嫌われるタイプでした。
確かにそうだったかもな。
Tsukada let out a slightly lonely laugh while shaking his head and shrugging his shoulders. Opinions on strong, self-assertive people are often split down the middle in group activities. Or rather, in this country's climate where harmony and cooperation are considered a virtue, overly aggressive personalities are frowned upon. If anything, it might be similar to a form of envy for something they lack.
もし
Suddenly, Tsukada muttered something while sticking his cigarette into a portable ashtray, and then...
もしもという言葉を許せ。もしもあの時、お前と本気で付き合う勇気を持って前に踏み出していたら、こんなことにはならなかったかもな。恨むよ、神様を。
Tsukada pulled something out of his coat pocket and tossed it to Tomoe with a snap of his wrist. She grabbed it with both hands and held it under the streetlight as she opened them. It was apparently some sort of key, attached to an oval-shaped plate with the numbers engraved into it. Safety deposit box? Box? Maybe?
保険だよ。この先俺に何かがあったら
What that?
使ってくれ。
何かって。
This is like the biggest switch up ever. From someone who looked so sus to being super dope. You love to see it.
お前なら
It's the opposite of Hinata. He was super dope and then he's super sus.
なあ、見ない。
HUD?
血が流れずに済む。
Okay. I thought he was
それ
going
が
in.
一番なんだよな。俺も今はそう思うよ。
Unable to say anything, Tomoe just quietly stared at Tsukada. What sort of meaning was hidden behind those words? But before she could think it over, he quickly smiled and turned around, then started walking.
とりあえず送るよ。あの車だから。
はい。
Should he trust it? Just then. When Tomoe saw Tsukada approach the driver's side door, she suddenly recalled the scene from half a year ago. I mean, I do trust him, but then I suddenly distrusted him, but maybe there's a bomb in his car and he might die. Save him! That's right. This parking lot was very close to where Madoka's car exploded. Then, no way?
待ってください、塚田さん。鍵は。
え？
Boom. The same moment that Tsukada turned back and answered, she could hear the ka-ching sound of the driver's side door unlocking. But it didn't explode! Yay! That would have been
どうしたんだ、
scary.
見ない。
Also, don't get in that car still, because now I'm sus, even though I shouldn't be. I don't know. I'm just a very sus person in general. I suspect everyone.
あ、いえ。
Because he's still technically the #1 culprit for the car bombing. I guess it's just someone who isn't sprited. We don't know.
気のせいだったみたいです。
Which is fine. It's usually what happens. Tokyo has lots of operatives. Tomoe smiled as she said that, then turned toward the passenger side. And then she cautiously placed her hand in the knob and opened the door. After confirming nothing happened, Tomoe followed Tsukada's lead and sat down in the passenger seat. As she settled down into the seat, she felt a rush of relief.
見ない。
Alright, that's
まさ
Verducci.
か俺がお前を
I
殺すとで
did.
も思ったのか？
But I'm glad we're over it now.
それはその。
まあ、そう疑われても仕方ないよな。本当は俺、お前の様子を伺ってくるように言われてきたんだから。
そうなんですか？
千葉明彦は、実はお前さんの存在を一番目障りだと思ってる。
With good reason.
ある意味で、恐れてもいるな。だから動向を調査して、場合によっては口を封じ
To
ろってな。
silence you. You know, not Hitman for that? They just sent this dude?
あいにく俺はそんなのごめんだ。だったらせめて、お前が俺に剣をして、捜査自体に興味を失えばいい。そう思って、あんな風に脅しをかけちまった。ひどいことを言って、すまなかった。
いえ、それはもういいです。むしろ塚田さんが昔通りで安心しました。
なあ、見ない。俺も最後に。
Ooh,
この
Fate
運命って
Enjoyer.
やつを
He's converted. No wonder he's not on their side anymore. It's not Tatano pilled. Tsukada put the key in the ignition and paused for a while, carefully choosing his words before turning toward Tomoe and giving her that answer.
正直、どこまでやれるかはわからんし、お前まで巻き込んでしまって申し訳ない。だが、お前ともう一度会えたことを俺は前向きに捉えたい。
塚田さん。
ただ、見ない。俺のやっていることは間違いなく悪事への加担だ。自分でも法に照らして許されるものでは決してないと理解している。だから、その時が来たら遠慮は無用だぞ。
はい。
Understanding what he was implying, Tomoe quietly nodded while biting her lip. If what Tsukada said earlier was true, there's no chance he'd be found innocent. But if that's the case, then the least level of kindness she could offer him is to handcuff him herself. Feeling that resolve in her heart, Tomoe gently turned her gaze out the window. But then...
いいですね。
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. This is the perfect time to stop. Cliffhanger, Wild Hanada comes out. Everything's going to shit. I'm scared, you're scared, but you don't have to wait until next time. I know how to bait people. Anyways, great Sashi. Hopefully Tsukada doesn't die, but darn it, Hanada, popping up at the worst times. We'll see what happens next time. Bye!